You look tragic, bitch. The fuck are you wearing? Scramble was written and directed by and also stars Leah McKendrick as Nellie, who's a 34-year-old woman that's going through a particularly tough period in her life. She's not sure what she exactly wants to do with the rest of her life, and time is running out to do one particular thing, aka have children. Now, she's always kind of been reticent against having children, but her and her best friend Sheila had talked about being the last two single ladies, both the single ladies, standing up for what they believe in. But oh no, Sheila found somebody, and we start at the wedding where Nellie is super happy for her. And then a bombshell's dropped just before the reception starts, but Nellie still kind of wants to be the party girl in a party world, dropping Molly. It's so jolly. And then she, we see what happens with her family. She has a bit of a brother-sister, love them, hate them thing with Jesse, played by Andrew Santino, who actually does turn in a pretty good performance here. And they're kind of joking around as brothers and sisters do. Her father is played by Clancy Brown, who I'm really happy to see him in more projects like this, as I've always appreciated what he's done comedically, and actually I think he's a very underappreciated actor. I'm glad he's still doing projects after so many goddamn years, because he's been in quite a bit of stuff. Now, he has some jarring lines in this that are a little bit too real, hit a little bit too close to home for those that have had a strained relationship with their parents, especially daughters that maybe aren't sure they want to provide children in general, because not everybody wants children. And that's perfectly okay. And that's something that this movie struggles with in the best possible way. I know plenty of girlfriends that don't want kids. One of my best friends doesn't want kids. And that's okay. But Nellie decides, I'm going to freeze my eggs with blackjack and hookers. And I don't think that's how medical science works. But she goes through the procedures. And it's tough. It changes her body. It affects her body. There are certain things she can and can't do. Certain things she needs to cut out of her diet. But before this, she is, before and during this, she is hooking up with, various exes, flings, whatever, back from high school and stuff like that. And again, it plays on the fact that Nellie has grown up in a sense, but hasn't totally grown up in a sense. And I can identify with that. Some of us do struggle with growing up and leaving the nest and doing whatever. But with Nellie, there's a sense of realism about it. And when it comes to a project like this, when you have a writer, director, possibly producer, but writer, director, star being the same person, being one and the same, wearing so many goddamn hats, their neck is going to have a sudden droop, like their J.D. McDonough. That's a deep cut for wrestling fans. Can either be something really, really good that even if it treads familiar ground, such as this, it really does elevate the material, and you can appreciate why they wanted to do this. Or it can go this direction where you end up realizing, holy shit, I see why they did this, because they really felt they could do this and they weren't qualified to do any of it. I've seen plenty of indie horror and plenty of stuff like that that's over in the other direction. Thankfully, it's over here in the former column, and Leah McKendrick actually is terrific as Nellie. There are some jarring moments. There's a dark comedy moment in a therapy session that I really appreciate. I'll talk about in the spoilers. Her friend Sheila, I thought had a good supporting role as well, but Leah really was the shining star here. And not shining star in the sense she was dominating the screen because she was the writer-director. She had to carry the ball, and she did it. And there are some tough moments, like especially hooking up with certain people, certain exes, and certain stuff that gets revealed. And you kind of realize you can't go back, and then there's always the one that got away. Everybody has the one that got away. You always wonder. I do. I think everybody does in the comments to an extent. But everybody grows in different directions, and you got to move on. You got to deal with it. You can always have that voice at the back of your head, but nevertheless, it is actually pretty good. There is a jarring thing with Sheila a little bit later on where I was like, oh, okay. This starts off as a comedy and actually turns into a pretty serious drama with some tear-jerking moments. I was shocked that it got me. I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. Things are glossed over that I think could have been fleshed out because they were central to the story. And there were a few cliched parts. There were a couple things that I think could have been cut in favor of not glossing over certain things. But enough story elements, enough pieces come together to basically carry this movie pretty goddamn far. It's a lot like Babes in the sense that it deals with women at a certain age, maybe not wanting to grow up, this kind of stuff. Pregnancy or, the possibility of it. And I would say these are two good companion pieces. I would say it works out pretty well if you watch both of them. I would say Babes is a little bit better than this. Actually, maybe not significantly better, but better than this. But Scrambled is very, very close as far as being something that's very moving, good comedy, and Liam McKendrick once again shining as the star. Shining star for you to see what your life could truly be. And there's enough of a proper ending here where you feel like the story is carried out beautifully. So it is on Hulu if you want to check it out. It was in theaters. I didn't get a chance to check it out, but I'm glad I did here. Well worth it. So I'm going to get into spoilers. So 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So, Always Bridesmaid, Never the Bride is the central theme of this. Sheila reveals when they're they're having this whole thing. Oh, I know we were going to be the last 2 single women. But Nellie's happy for her. And Nellie doesn't hate Shelley or Sheila rather because she got married. And Nellie also talks about there was this one guy, Sean, that she was with, that's revealed later on. She didn't want to have kids. He did. Now, he's a bit older than her. When in all honesty, they looked at, when the actor they cast kind of looked about as young as Liam McKendrick, but I digress. There's some funny exchanges. You look tragic, bitch. The fuck are you wearing? Well, you picked this dress out for me. And Sheila's going through it. They were going to pop some Molly, and then Sheila reveals she's pregnant. She's like, spit out, spit out. Nellie's a caring friend, didn't want her friend to be on drugs while pregnant. Old Clancy Brown kind of made me laugh here. There's some stuff between Jesse and Nellie that's very moving. And she asks him for help a little bit later on. And she needs money to basically do this procedure. He says, I'll lend you the 8K, but with 1K interest, and if you don't pay back in 2 months, I own your eggs. That never comes to fruition, ironically. But it's a nice little thing there. You're kind of thinking maybe Jesse will be set up as a dick. She goes through these procedures. The doctor, the actor playing the doctor is pretty funny as well. And Candy by Mandy Moore plays, good God, that's a load of nostalgia blasting me in the face. Moving on. There was a time where I liked Mandy Moore. I actually still do. Mandy Moore actually is a very good actress as well. Was Entangled, voiced Entangled. She was also in This Is Us, which I have not seen, but I've heard is very moving. So, we see all the exes. We see some graphics. The Prom King, the PP King, Preston, and he kind of lies his way to getting in her pants, but then says he's just separated from his current significant other, not actually divorced. Nellie, to be fair, is not perfect. She is a bit selfish at times. You could argue her wanting to freeze her eggs and not wanting to actually have anything with anybody would be considered selfish, or she could just let her eggs rot, which would be ultimately selfish, or it could be her fucking choice at the end of the day. That's probably the best option to take. So there's this old neighbor lady, Parveen. I don't know why that name made me laugh. There's an old flame named Sean that goes tits up. Bad experiences dating. I haven't been on a date in well over a decade, but let me tell you right now, I'm not the best conversationist or conversationalist or however the hell you goddamn say it. I'm definitely not the best at words, as you can tell here. But, yeah, the bad experiences dating, I can identify with that. So, she's at another friend's wedding or reception or whatever. And all this time, she's just wishing that maybe she had given it a chance with Sean. But her dad kind of nails it, keeps nailing her about, all this stuff with just verbal spears, essentially saying, freezing the eggs, it's immoral, you really should have been with Sean. And he's having these memory issues where he just can't get out of his head that she would have dropped Sean, who seemed perfect for her. And then here's Jim, some other ex who's in like tantric meditation stuff. And then they get in bed, or they get where they're fucking on the couch. But then he's like a little bit too interested in how fertile she is, essentially. And he's like, oh, don't touch them, they're mine. So she started to get more attached to all this stuff. Then she sees her procedures are going well. And then Sheila calls her. And Sheila was pregnant and Sheila miscarried. I'm like, oh, come on, movie. Come on. But that being said, it played into something where Shelley wanted her to go to therapy with her. She didn't. and because she just couldn't do it, and she was sitting there waiting for Shelley to show up. Or Sheila to show up. Sorry, I keep saying Shelley and Nellie. I apologize. I apologize. I apologize to the creators and everything in the known universe. Sheila can't come. Nellie was going to leave, and then basically talks about, oh, I was just here for a friend. This kind of stuff. She says, I too, hope to, one day experience the joys of miscarriage. Or no, that's not what I meant. We need to abort this, and God damn it, and people start laughing because that's what you do in a dark situation. You laugh. At least that's what I do. And it worked out, and she revealed a lot of stuff about herself. It's about teamwork, partnership, and, seeing, something, that's worth fighting for. There were also avocado impressions, like women are like avocados, ripe for a millisecond, but then seen as, used up or, not, or totally expendable. I think that's something they could have fleshed out a little bit more. There was a nice scene with a thing in the where she's carving avocados and they're all bad. Experiencing the feeling of life, what's going through, what she's going through. Richard wasn't exactly endearing as a father. There was this one great moment where things built, where she basically was like, can you have eggs? Or can you produce eggs? Can you do this? Jesse, can you do this? And Jesse kind of turned around a little bit there while Richard really had to realize what the hell he was saying. And then she decides to go see Sean, who's celebrating with his new wife or fiance or girlfriend, who's pregnant. That's what he wanted. She realizes she did want Sean, and there's a funny moment where she slips and seemingly busts her ankle like Kerry Von Erich on a motorcycle. Deep cut for wrestling fans again. But she offers him congratulations. It's all awkward. She has to take this one final injection thing before this procedure. And the old lady is always keeping an eye on her, Parveen, ends up being kind of a sweet lady that actually, offers her some help. She just looks at her strange, but she doesn't look at her with disdain. She's just an old lady that just wanders around, enjoying her golden years. And Nellie was kind of a bitch about it. But the frozen eggs thing is a success. Now her eggs can be sent out to women that can't conceive, but can house an egg, but can't produce her own good one. And now she's going to have more kids out there. Part of her will continue to live on. At really nice, a letter, dear eggs, love mom. That was sweet. And then she finds a good avocado at the end, and credits. And it was good. It was good. Life is scrambled. Life is tough. Life is weird. And again, there are a few things I think they could have not glossed over. A couple things they maybe could have cut out. But overall, for good story building and for good performances, A-. I thought it was very good. Looking forward to seeing what else Liam McKendrick can do in the future. Agree, disagree, what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rutland. I'll see you soon.